How can I be a more impactful and better leader? That is a question we get all the time at Clinic Mastery. And I think it's something that is really at the forefront of people's minds in healthcare because we're looking at the challenges for the next 2 to 5 years of recruitment and retention. And a lot of that falls on how good are we as leaders. So before we get into this lesson today, this video, what I'd love you to do is to go over to like and subscribe. It helps us to help more people. And it honestly just means the world. And it also helps me to understand what sort of content do you want to see more of and what content do you want to see less of. Also, if you leave a comment below around what you'd like to see more of here as well, that would be fantastic. Now, let's jump into this one. Now, I recently read a book. The book was called Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me. And it's about cognitive dissonance and self-justification. And it was really, really interesting to understand as leaders how we can fall into this trap and how this then has an impact, a very big knock-on impact on the people who work with us, the people we're leading. And what it did was it broke down a framework in order to reduce cognitive dissonance and self-justification as leaders. So I've broken it down into 7 parts. I've got some notes in the background here. It's a reasonably complex topic, so I tried to take some notes to make sure I didn't miss anything, but I broke it down into 7 parts. Okay, so you can write these down. Now, the first one is recognize and understand the potential for self-justification. Take responsibility for your own actions. Seek different perspectives. So look for different perspectives from other people. Cultivate self-reflection. Embrace a growth mindset. Practice empathy and stay open-minded. So we'll jump into each of these ones and maybe what it looks like and how you can be implementing it. So the first one, relatively straightforward, recognize the potential for self-justification. And I think this one is key because often we'll say that, we don't self-justify these things. We're as leaders, when we make a decision, we're making that decision for the right reasons. And if it's wrong, we're happy to admit that it's wrong, right? Wrong most of the time. Often people make a decision and then they justify it after the fact. They put the logic in after the fact. If we can recognize the potential that we're going to have to justify something that doesn't go particularly to plan, that's going to help us to become better leaders. That's part 1, is recognize your potential for self-justification. Part 2, taking responsibility for your actions. Now, I mean, this is key, and we talk about it all the time, is making sure that we take responsibility for our actions, and we ask this of our team. But my question to you is, how well do you do this as the leader? And I feel I struggled with this early on as a leader because I felt like I had to have all the answers. I had to be right all of the time. And if I wasn't, then I wasn't doing my role. And that led me sometimes to not take responsibility for my own actions, to essentially try and hide things that went wrong and emphasize the things that went well. But I think it's perfectly normal and natural for us to be making mistakes. And people have a lot of respect for people who can put their hand up and take responsibility when something doesn't go as well as it should have. So making sure that we're taking responsibility for our actions, we're not blaming others. A quote in leadership is, and a very interesting one that I liked, was give credit, take blame. And if you think of the best leaders that you've worked with, they're really good at giving credit to those around them, but they're fantastic at putting their hand up and taking ownership and taking the blame when something doesn't go to plan. The third part is seek different perspectives. Now, the easiest way to do this is to actually reach out to other people in your team for their perspective on a situation, a scenario, a strategy, a plan, whatever it may be, whatever you're applying this to. Get other people's viewpoints on this. Now, you may not necessarily agree with these viewpoints, but this is how the other person sees it. And it helps to reduce self-justification because when someone else has a different viewpoint to us, we start to see that, hey, there are different ways of seeing this. The fourth step is to cultivate self-reflection. So what we want to do here is actually engage in regular self-reflection. For me, what this looks like is grabbing a piece of paper and a pen and actually writing things down. Although I actually do it on an iPad, so iPad and a pen, but writing it down. And what I do is I challenge my own assumptions. I challenge my beliefs. I challenge my thought process as to why I made a decision. And an interesting thing to consider is that you can't judge the quality of a decision on the outcome. Might sound weird, right? You can't judge the quality of a decision on the outcome. Now, if we did judge the quality of the decision on the outcome, then we should look up to lottery winners as geniuses, right? Because the outcome worked for the decision that they made. What we want to do is we want to judge the quality of a decision based on the repeatability of that outcome. And what that means is making the decision that's going to be right most of the time. And so actually thinking about this as you're going through and challenging your own beliefs, did you make a decision that looking back wasn't the best decision, but you got really lucky? And how can you make sure that in future you aren't encouraged to make more similar decisions because one thing paid off? Okay, really interesting thing to consider there. Next one is to embrace a growth mindset. This is step 5. Now, a growth mindset, it reframes mistakes or things going wrong as an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow. And when you see things that haven't gone well as an opportunity to learn and grow, rather than something that should be hidden and be ashamed of, then you actually look at these things as they're not bad things. You're less likely to hide, you're less likely to self-justify. And so what I would do for this one tangibly is I would write down all of the positives that are going to come from this thing that hasn't worked, from this error, this omission, whatever it may be, but write down all the positives that come from it. And you'll start to look at these things in a different light with a growth mindset. By reframing mistakes as valuable lessons, you help to reduce the need for self-justification. The 6th part is to practice empathy. So you want to make sure that you're developing empathy towards others so that you can understand their perspectives. When you can understand someone else's perspective, it helps you to overcome the bias and reduce the tendency to justify your actions. And if you're ever looking for strategies to lead with more empathy, reading any of Brené Brown's work is a fantastic place to start. And if you're anything like me and you enjoy writing things down, write this down, reflect on it, and look at how in future you can have more empathy in a certain situation. And the 7th part is to stay open-minded. Now, this is really, really important because typically what we do when new information presents itself is we dig our heels in and we go, no, we've already made this decision here, or this is already the way I feel or see it. And this new information I'm going to dismiss for whatever reason, because I need to self-justify that I made the right decision to start with. We need to be able to get past that. And this is one that I would say I've done plenty of times, and no doubt you have too, is not stayed open-minded. New information has come in and you haven't made a pivot or a change as a result of that new information coming in. And it has been detrimental to your clinic, to your team members, whoever it may be, but people who can see from a different perspective are really going to be wondering, why are we not actually taking on board this new information and making a better decision? So those are the 7 steps, my friends. We have recognized the potential for self-justification. Take responsibility, put your hand up, take ownership. People will respect a leader who can take ownership. Actively seek and look for different perspectives from different people within your team. Self-reflection, write things down, spend some time doing that. Embrace a growth mindset. See mistakes as valuable lessons that you can learn from, opportunities for you. Practice empathy and stay open-minded to new information as it comes in. There's going to be a lot of noise, but there will be new pieces of information that come in, and they can be extremely valuable to helping you to make the right decision, to make a change, to get the best outcome, the most repeatable outcome. I hope this has been a useful video for you. It's quite a complex book, and I've tried to distill this down to make it as palatable as possible, to hopefully give you some actionable steps that you can go away with. But one more thing, if you would like to do this, we have our Assess Your Clinic just down below. I've dropped the link down there. It's free. It'll probably take 5 to 10 minutes, not too long. And it helps you to understand within your business, what are the opportunities for you to grow? What are the opportunities for you to improve? How can you get rid of some of that cognitive dissonance and self-justification of maybe why things are the way they are? It's really hard to do that without, as you can find here, staying open-minded and getting more information. Thank you again for watching our video. I hope this has helped you on your leadership journey, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode, my friends.